Higher Level Biology, Year 12, Mid-Course Exam, Paper 1b, question 3. And in the stem of this question, what we're finding out about is to do with marmots and how, with their critically endangered status, a captive breeding program took place along with a release program. So they've been bred, the numbers have been increased, and then released into the wild. Then the cause of death of marmots in the wild, so all of them, was evaluated, and the data is presented in this table. So let's look at the table. We've got causes of death with three parts doing with predation, and then another one relating perhaps to abiotic factors, and then we have a death rate here on the y-axis. And then a quick glance, we can see that those born in captivity are not faring as well as those born in the wild. But let's take a look at the question. And the first one asks us to distinguish between the levels of predation in marmots born in the wild and those born in captivity. So I think my initial thought is to state that the wild-born marmots have better survival. Better survival in the wild, or vice versa. You can do that the other way around, stating that the captive bred and released ones don't survive as well. So either way around will attract 1 mark for this question. You probably have it in mind that predation is the causal reason. Let's just get 2 parts of the question into view, where it suggests a reason for the differences in the predation levels. So what we're trying to do is suggest a reason why we've got the wild-born marmots and we have the captive bred and released, and then we're being asked for a suggestion, so you have to use scientific reasoning why this group are doing poorly, why this group are doing well in terms of predation. So biologically sensible answers. Perhaps my suggestions would be that the parental animal, the parental marmot, is sorry, I'm dealing with this one, the captive bred. I'll call that CR for the moment. So captive bred and released marmots as parents are not protecting their young. So that's my note. So you, of course, are writing in continuous sentences. It could be that not just a question of not protecting, it could be that the same parents, because they're captive bred, that they do not recognize the threat, so that they don't actually know what these predators are, and therefore don't protect themselves or their young from that. So what we've got here is an issue with, and you may have referred to this as one of your suggested reasonings, that learning about the wild environment has been deprived to the captive bred marmots. Now, in constructing your answers, you may have taken these particular points and reversed them to emphasize the advantage that the wild population had. So that's acceptable, of course, but we're looking for 2 to get the 2 marks. We're being asked in the next section to distinguish between what is called ex situ and in situ conservation. All right, so ex situ is the creation of an artificial environment for conservation. And if I were to give an example, the immediate one that comes to mind is a zoo or a wildlife park. An in situ type of conservation takes place in a more natural environment. And here I'm thinking of what perhaps we would call national parks or animal sanctuaries. In some countries where they have animal sanctuaries. So that's the difference. Ex situ, artificial; in situ, more natural. And the final question in this particular part is we had you modify the question to remove this positive. So we're outlining one negative aspect of ex situ breeding programs. So what's negative? What could be negative about organizing a captive breeding program in a national park? And I think the most obvious feature that I can think of is that there are so many uncontrolled variables, and particularly with respect to something like high levels of predation, which would not occur in an artificially controlled environment. There's also the variability of food supply. That would also be an aspect which was variable in a natural setting. So that one of those will get us the mark for this part of the question, taking us to the final 5 marks for this particular question.